I have dedicated my professional career to the study and control of arthropods.
Okay, this is the going to be the first of two more videos I am making to God, Guns, Guts, Glory. I know I've been making a lot of them lately, but I've been watching a lot of his videos lately. So I thought, just in order to pair, fair and balanced, this one is going to be actually mostly positive, and that's not going to be the case with my next one. I've already got it kind of fleshed out. The other one's going to be, in fact, precisely the opposite. But this is about your video, Global Warming is a Scam. And oddly enough, to my complete surprise, outside of the actual premise of your video, which I disagree with, I agree with portions of what you say. Actually, some fair portions of what you have to say. So that's why this is the positive video, okay? But I want to get into one thing I wanted to let you know, though, okay? A couple of things, a couple of factual errors, and I'm not gonna. Well, one you probably should be held accountable for, but the first one, you know what? No, there shouldn't be any. Almost most lay people get this wrong. Okay, so I'm not. I wouldn't blame you for getting it wrong. You may have even learned it in school. Unfortunately, a lot of grade school teachers don't know this as well. But you mentioned about plants breathing in CO2. Plants don't breathe CO2. Okay, plants breathe oxygen, just like all other eukaryotic cells, or the vast majority of eukaryotic cells that use aerobic respiration respire with oxygen. Respiration is another term for breathing. Okay, they use the same glycolysis cycle that all animals, fungi, most protists use. Is all that same cycle, which is the breakdown of sugar in the presence of oxygen, the pyruvate cycle. So plants do take in carbon dioxide, but it's not for breathing. It has nothing to do with the respirate. Well, it has little. It's a separate system than the respiratory system. Okay, the respiration system. That respiration cycle. Is the whole metabolic pathway. The CO2 is taken in and utilized for the manufacture of sugars. So it actually makes glucose. So CO2 in the presence of water and energy makes glucose. That's utterly and completely separate from respiration. The byproduct of that is oxygen, which they can then use for their own respiration. So they actually produce oxygen, but they actually use oxygen at the same time. Just something like that. Most people get that one wrong. There's a sort of a magic school bus analogy thing out there, or whatever it is, that sort of implies that like animals breathe in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, while plants do the opposite. It's like it's just this perfect yin-yang thing out there, and that's simply a falsehood. But anyway, that's okay. But the other thing you did mention, though, you talked about parts per million carbon dioxide. I'm assuming because that closest thing that matches to is by volume. CO2, the carbon load I teach, one of the sections I teach in my oceanography course, and well, actually almost all of my courses comes into to some degree, is the organic and inorganic carbon cycle. And your figure of 250 parts per million is way off. Okay, currently there's about 350 parts per million of carbon dioxide by volume in the atmosphere, and it has never been as high as 1,000 in human history. Okay, in fact, the last time the carbon load, free carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, was approaching 1,000 was during the Jurassic, the age of the dinosaurs period, and actually that wasn't even the highest. It was actually much higher than that in the Permian. I believe it was the Permian, when it was about actually 4,000 parts per million in our atmosphere at that point in time. So it's true that over global scales, carbon dioxide fluctuates dramatically on natural scales. But anyway, so just to correct your numbers there, and I'm sure that was an honest error. But anyway, the one thing I wanted to talk about, where and I agree that honestly, there's a hypocrisy in the fact that the electric car, fell through, died. What we have today is dramatically inefficient, and I believe that, like you said, it's purposefully so. Where I want you to really think about it, because I think it's awesome that despite a few other little factual errors in your video, I'll talk to real briefly, but that you saw that little view, opening up the armor a little bit and peeking out into the real world, seeing that there is a conspiracy like that. Not some star chamber or whatever, but I mean, obviously people with common goals. But what I want you to really recognize, and I noticed in a couple of your videos, you talk about liberals do this, okay? And you talk about Al Gore as a liberal puppet and his role in this. But this is where I think you're either being somewhat misleading, or you don't really know, or you don't want to admit. Somewhere there's something incongruous there, because the they that stopped the electric car and the they that's talking about global warming are opposite ends of the political spectrum, okay? Al Gore, the liberal Democrats, are talking about global warming, okay? They were also in favor of the zero emissions things in our government, forcing the auto industry to start converting to non-petroleum products throughout the 80s and into the 90s. The opponents to that, the people who killed the electric car, Dick Cheney, was right in the thick of it all, Herbert Walker Bush, G.W. Bush, those people used their political influence, their lobbyists, their influence to sue the auto company, or to sue the state of California to stop California from passing a law requiring that. So the people, the conservatives, okay, that I'm assuming you are one of them, they're the ones that killed the electric car. They're the corrupt people. You can't say they are hypocrites talking about one group and the other group, because they're two utterly unrelated people, okay? Al Gore has nothing to do with the auto company's corruption. I'm not saying he's a perfect guy. I'm not even saying, we're not even getting into his character or his politics or whether you agree or disagree with him. But those are separate issues, and I think that you probably should think about that one a lot. The they that you refer to was people in the auto industry and in the petroleum industry who wanted to keep us dependent, and those were, to a person, conservative Republicans, okay? So just know that your own party, and I'm sure you're not unaware that there's corruption in all at levels, okay? I'm not, obviously. Okay, but the other thing I want to talk about, though, you say that global warming is a scam, and unfortunately, anthropogenically generated global warming is not a scam. The fact that the planet switches temperature, the cycles go up and down, that happens naturally. The reality is we are accelerating that process, and there's no legitimate scientists in the field, people that actually study it, have any opposite. It's a non-issue. The issue exists in the popular media. I mean, the controversy exists. It exists on YouTube. It exists in editorials. But the actual scientists that study it, there's no distinction. That guy that was fired, look into his history. What's his name? Happen. The guy's works for oil companies as a consultant. He's a paid liar, I'm sorry to say, okay? He's making money by saying that there's a controversy in the science. He doesn't work with that. He doesn't work in that area. He doesn't work with meteorology. He doesn't work with climatology, okay? He is a scientist, but his expertise is somewhere else, and he's making these claims to add some legitimacy to it. People working in the field of climate change, nobody doubts that we are accelerating climate change, and it's not going to hurt the planet. You're right. Absolutely, it's a natural cycle, part of a natural cycle. We're accelerating it, and it's not going to hurt the planet, but it's going to hurt us, okay? It is going to lead to things. We do need to control it, at the very least, simply because our petroleum use is through the roof, over the top. Even if there was no such thing, even if global warming was a scam, it's not necessarily a negative scam. We do need to curtail that, and if it takes that to scare people into doing it, it's not a scam. I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that there's other reasons why we need to protect our petroleum reserves. There are some really, really important ones. And I'll put them in the sidebar. There's some really, actually, completely human selfish use reasons why we need to protect those petroleum reserves and not be burning them up in our cars. Okay, all right. So this is the end of this video. Talk to you later.